Hey, it's Ben with Lions SRD here. Really quickly, thanks for stopping by. And if you want to catch our other shows here on sportsradiodetroit.com, like Out of Bounds, the SRD Road Show, Laugh Tracks, Spinning the Wheels, any of our great selections, you easily can. Just go to Apple's iTunes, Spotify, right here on Podbeam. You can go directly to the website, sportsradiodetroit.com, and basically get all the content you want. We just appreciate you stopping by, and if you like it, give us a good review so other people can find it. Now, Lions SRD.
You're listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
It's going to be a tough thing because he's a great coach. He was a great mentor to a lot of guys, and just being able to go to his office whenever you wanted to talk to him, just man to man, was always a good thing.
And here is Huntley's pass, and it's going to be intercepted on the deflection.
Ton of respect for him, just the way he carried himself, the way he coached us, the way he treated everybody. He's a great guy and a great coach.
Stafford, and the pass is caught by Galladay. Galladay is off in the end zone, touchdown.
Seeing it on my phone, it was got really emotional just because of the man he is and the effect that he had on everybody.
A fake end around and going deep and to the receiver, and it's caught by Marvin Jones.
I'm telling you what, you got to challenge that. There's the challenge flag.
I see
right there.
This morning, I spoke to Coach Caldwell, informed him of the decision not to retain him as the head coach of the Lions. I feel like there was a need and change in the leadership of this team, and starting today, I'll be leading that search to hire a new head coach for the Lions.
Lions SRD on sportsradiodetroit.com.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lions SRD here on sportsradiodetroit.com. Happy New Year to you as well. I'm Ben Sloggy, joined with always Marty Stouffer. Marty, Happy New Year to you. How was your
Happy New Year, brother.
Thank you. How was your New Year's?
It was quiet. How was yours?
Well, as you can imagine, it was very quiet. Didn't really want to go out just because it's a policeman's favorite time of year, and people who like to have a good time like to also drive on the roads. So I was invited out to a couple of events, but New Year's is a time I always want to stay home. Like that and St. Patrick's Day, like arguably the two best drinking celebrations of the year. I'm like, nah, gonna stay home. It's like I'm 45 or something. I don't know. It's like I'm 45, married, and have like two kids, and that's definitely not the case. But yeah, no, like I said, on those type of holidays, I just stay in. So, what'd you think of the movie Bright? I saw that you saw that because I saw that on New Year's Eve.
It was weird. I had no expectations going into it, so it was just kind of weird. Like I wanted to see but it was even too weird for my taste, and I'm a little off the wall myself. But I'm watching it. I was just, I don't know. Like I didn't hate it, but I was kind of like, it's all right. Like so many people were like, oh, it's such a great movie, but it was all right. What did you think?
I'm right there with you. Like I appreciate the fact that it was set in like a modern world and whatnot, but it was the exact same like fantasy movie that like every fantasy movie is, right? Like that deals with orcs, elves, and everything like that. Like all you have to do is just think in your head, okay, what's this movie going to be about? And you're like, oh, yep, obviously that's why they named a movie that. That's why he's this. Okay, that's okay, that's fine. Like it wasn't like I watched like Star Wars for a second time and absolutely hated it. But people think I'm crazy, but I think Force Awakens was a lot better. But that's what the Laugh Tracks is for. If you want to listen to movie breakdowns, listen to the guys at the Laugh Tracks. You can obviously get better, more in-depth breakdowns. We'll give you Lions here on Lions SRD, and obviously there's the Lions don't have a head coach, and you could kind of expect that it was going to happen only because when they did the extension in secret, right, why would you, like week 12, week 13, say, oh, by the way, the extension's only for a year? Like, so once you say that, you already know that Jim Caldwell is being evaluated. And Jim Caldwell wasn't the only Lions coach to lose his job. If you are thinking of position groups, which I know a lot of people usually do when they think of coaching searches. Ron Prince also lost his job on Monday. So it was just one of those things. Like, a lot of people were angry with it, right? I know a lot of people disagree with it. Marty, I know you're one of those people that kind of disagree with it, but
I really do.
I'll ask you this first. Would you rather keep Wayne Fontes or try to keep a guy that could get you to the next level?
Well, see, that's kind of a loaded question because Wayne Fontes didn't have a talented team. He had a talented megastar in Barry Sanders, whereas Caldwell has a talented team that just wasn't getting it done. The reason I'm against Caldwell and even Ron Prince to a degree getting fired, Ron Prince kind of got hosed more than just about anybody on Black Monday or Black Friday, whatever the hell they call it, because how many of his offensive linemen were hurt through the year?
Right.
So they were constantly putting patchwork to offensive linemen together. And I don't care who you are. You could be Bear freaking Bryant for all I care. If you have guys who you're signing off the street to come in and play, or guys you're coming out of the practice squad to come in and play because your starters are all hurt, it's not going to be good for anybody. Look at how many teams in the league went through that this year. And it's just, I kind of feel like Ron Prince got the raw end of the deal, and I also really feel like Caldwell got the real raw end of the deal. Playoff 2 out of 4 years he was here. I mean, and we probably would have went this year if it weren't for like 1 or 2 games that were blown on bad calls, Atlanta. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm not that I'm a Caldwell truther. I'm not. I've always said that I felt like when we got him, it was kind of like getting the booby prize, and I stand by that. But I also realized that like he's the best coach this team has ever had, and people can kind of roll their eyes and scoff and whatever. It's true. The facts are there. It backs him up. He's the winningest coach in Lions history, and he only did that in 4 seasons. So that speaks to the volumes of what he can do. Now, I believe he was basically an overpaid coordinator because he's not a quote unquote leader of men, regardless of what his former team is saying. You see the players coming on social media. We love Coach Caldwell and blah blah blah. Well, of course they're going to say that because he was their guy. But he was never going to be a guy that was going to take this team to the promised land because he doesn't. I believe that like you need a head coach that has, for lack of a better term, he has a spark. And Caldwell's he's just a slow and steady guy. He's not going to be that guy to rally the troops, so to speak. But I kind of feel like he got a raw deal.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like, I'll agree with you. Ron Prince kind of gets the short straw, but even when he had most of his starting offensive line. I mean, granted, yes, you lost your left tackle for a while. You lost him for 7 games. That's gonna be hard for any coach. It really is, and I do feel that he did get kind of the short end of the stick because of that, because of the injuries. But also, this is the NFL, right? I mean, this is something that this isn't college, this isn't high school. You need to coach up and develop your guys because they're pros. And when you only missed your starting left tackle, things weren't bad. You still couldn't run the football, but things weren't bad, right? Corey Robinson did a good job of stepping in for Taylor Decker and worked within a system for a little bit. But outside of that, you still couldn't get the running game going. You really couldn't keep Stafford, having a upright or really having a pocket all that much. I mean, there were times that, he did have a pocket and whatnot, but maybe Ron Prince is a scapegoat. But also when he was here, the offensive line never got better as the year went on. Like, the offensive line never improved. And he's been in Detroit as long as Caldwell's been in Detroit, if not longer. So I'll agree with you to a point on Ron Prince, but for Caldwell, I know I said this last year, because on this day, and we're recording on a Thursday, last year it was announced that Caldwell was not fired when everyone thought he would have been fired. And we're here on the 4th day of the new year, where we should be last year. And it was something I think listening to the press conference, Bob Quinn wasn't comfortable making that move yet. That's what it seemed like. I think he was still adjusting to being a general manager, and he wasn't ready to make that move. So what he did, he played it safe. And he gave Caldwell another year and said, hey, you did get us to the playoffs. That's commendable, even though we backed our way into it. But I'll give you another year to see if you can do it again. And don't get me wrong. Like, this year was a year that the Lions should have been a playoff team. They really should have. I mean, this is a team right around Thanksgiving. They were right in the thick of it. And every passing week, their grip, it was like hanging off a cliff. Their grip, if you remember watching cartoons as a kid, the thumb went gone, and then the pointer finger went gone, and the other fingers then followed, and then they were hanging on by their pinky, and then all of a sudden it fell off. And that was something that was really frustrating about the game on Sunday, was a lot of people were thinking, oh my God, yeah, these guys are playing for their coach. This is a statement game. No. Like, if you truly want to play for your coach, as Darius Slay said on Monday, they knew he was going to get fired. So, and they knew his job was on the line. Well, then play like it. Now, Darius Slay has played like it all year. He's going to the Pro Bowl. But you have to do better than what you're doing. And that's why I phrased the question the way I did to you, Marty. And it was an entrapment, and I apologize for it. You shouldn't do that to a friend, but I did it to you. But it's something that I think it's also a statement that this organization in this town has never heard or seen before. They see it going through the motions, right? Yeah, we want to win the Super Bowl. We want to get to the playoffs. We want to, every general manager says that. But what general manager has the guts to actually stick his neck out on the line and say, hey, yeah, this is probably arguably one of the best coaches that we've had in organization history, and we're letting him go. We think we can do better because we demand better. That's basically what Bob Quinn said. That's exactly what he said. It was just one of the things that it's not good. It's not good. He says, at the end of the day, I want to take this team to the next level. And to me, that's winning a Super Bowl. But he also said that's winning championships. That's winning playoff games. And when Caldwell was here, yes, you could say he got screwed by the officials in the Dallas game. That's fine. But there was still enough time in that game to make sure that call, and it was a bad call, to make sure it doesn't affect you. Right? Last year, when the Lions got into the playoffs, again, they were hanging on by the skin of their teeth. They weren't looking good. But it's not like Seattle was world beaters either. Let's not kid ourselves. That Seattle team last year didn't have a passing game. They had a running game, and that was it. They couldn't really throw the football. Russell Wilson wasn't 100%. And if you're a good coach, yes, you'll hang in that game. You'll get your team there. But a great coach and then an elite coach will win those games and be competitive in those games. So I think it's actually a bold statement by Bob Quinn to come out just flat out on Monday and say that. It's not good enough to be okay. It's not good enough just to be better than average. I demand better than average. I demand championships. So at least that's where I'm okay with it, because we saw it throughout his tenure here. There was times where he didn't throw the challenge flag, or he took bad timeouts, or he didn't take timeouts, or he was indecisive with things, and it's just something that it should have happened last year. So, the fact he was gone does not surprise me at all. And like I said, I don't know if the next coach is the right coach. I don't know if the next coach is going to make the Lions, like Jim Caldwell did, a perennial playoff contender. I don't know. But I know Bob Quinn drafts well. He's done it in 2 years. He's done it very good. So maybe you can get a coach that develops guys. Maybe you have a staff that develops guys. And maybe the Lions actually do get better and better. It's something that's interesting, because that's what you hope, right? You hope that's what the Lions are doing. But that's why, again, I don't think Caldwell's getting the short end of the stick. I think this is a statement by the organization that, again, being okay is not okay.
Well, that's fair, and I see where you're going with it, but I just think when a coach comes in here and look, we all admit Mayhew and Schwartz rebuilt this team. Caldwell refined it, and it's you can't come in here and expect him to turn things around so quickly when he had. And I'm going to stand by Ndamukong Suh till the day I die because I love the way I love the way he plays the game. But you can't play like that in today's NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a guy like Ndamukong Suh out there who, for all intents and purposes, was an on-field cancer, and he was. I mean, let's face it. I mean, yeah, he's a phenomenal talent, but he can't get himself out of his own way. He just can't. And when you have guys like Calvin Johnson as the only viable weapon in the passing games, you're constantly forcing the ball to him. Like, you have to kind of tweak things when those guys finally leave. And I really don't feel like he had enough of a chance to do just that, because when he finally does get those pieces replaced and the adjustments start happening, then injuries come in. And I know I said injuries 10,000 times already in this. I get that. But I really do feel like that's why that's why he was let go. It was because he couldn't get more out of guys like Greg freaking Robinson, and and I like the signing in the offseason. I like him as a depth guy, but he couldn't get more out of Paul Warlow. I mean, come on, like, we're signing guys off the scrap heap to come in and be backups, and they're logging significant playing time because the guys who are ahead of them on the depth chart are hurt.
Yeah,
and I just feel like those guys getting hurt really doomed Caldwell's job. I mean, like look, Tavon Wilson, he got hurt. Well, he got hurt earlier in the season, or whoever it was, and it forced Quandre Diggs into a new position, which was fine because it ended up working out. But that was a rare instance where you look at the rest of the injuries that did occur, and that didn't happen. T.J. Lang got hurt; he missed a couple games, and they had Smoking Joe Piscopo from Tuscaloosa out there, playing right guard or right tackle.
Right,
it was just
right, yeah.
So to me, I just kind of feel like, I think he should have gotten a redshirt year, so to speak. I think he should have gotten at least one more year to kind of right the ship, because I really do think we're pretty close. We just need to get a running game going, and then that offense can be really, really special.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously going to be the downfall. Marty, you make great points. I mean, I can't even sit here and say you're wrong, because you're not. Like, they're valid points, they're valid excuses, and I can't. Like I said, I can't shoot them down. I can't poke holes into them, because you're right. And Bob Quinn even said that on Monday, that this team's not a playoff team because of me, and he took ownership of it. And he even said, I need to draft better, need to get better at evaluating talent for free agents and things like that. And you're right, guys like Paul Warlow, good special teams guy. But yeah, he's not a starting linebacker in the NFL. I don't think anyone was shocked or would be shocked if you heard that from anybody, because I mean, obviously he wasn't in Atlanta. Atlanta, he was only a special teams guy, and that's it. But I also think, that's why I think Bob Quinn's ready just to take this over completely. I honestly think he's ready to find a guy, because he's now comfortable in his position. He's comfortable in his job, and he knows what he can do. He knows what he can, get out of, talent evaluation. I mean, his free agent talent evaluation is not great. I mean, it's okay, but it's not spectacular.
Right.
But again, getting a guy like Greg Robinson, that wasn't a bad get. When you were put right in a pinch, that's a good plug and play player. That's not bad. But you're right though. Guys like Warlow, that come in, a guy like, Akeem Spence, on the defensive line, he was okay. But you need to get better, and you demand better. But again, he was kind of thrust into that position because Hyder was hurt. So I think he understands now the full risk and the full scope of the job. And that's why I'm interested to see what this guy does, because if he can keep building the roster the way he has through the draft, I think this team will be okay. I think this team will be fine. And maybe the next head coach, if he's just okay, if he's just average, maybe the Lions are a little bit better than average every year. Maybe that's the case, because we know for a while talent evaluation in this town has not been a strong suit. And even the way you were building contracts in this town was not a strong suit. But that's changing. And one of those things that we know that there's a bunch of free agents on this team that there are a lot of players on this team that are eligible for free agency, but one of them, the option was picked up at this year, so he's going to be guaranteed on the team next year. That's Eric Ebron, but a guy that's not guaranteed on this team next year is Ziggy Ansah. Both guys, first-round guys, but both guys would technically be ready for extensions. So that's going to be basically our next topic. Marty, if you look at it, Ziggy Ansah has been healthy in 2 years, and this year he ended the season consecutive games with 3 sacks. He had 3 sacks on Monday night against the Giants in Week 2, and you total that up, that's still 9 sacks in an injury-plagued season. That's not bad. But you can also say it's not great because the talent he was doing it against was mediocre. But
well, I don't know. I mean, you take a look, and I don't mean to interrupt you here.
No, you're fine.
Ziggy Ansah, he beat Eric Flowers like a drum in that Giants game.
He did, yeah.
And Eric Flowers came out and point blank said that. He goes, "That's on me. That's my fault." But Eric Flowers got significantly better as the year went on for the Giants. And I only know that I've probably told this story before, but I had a friend who passed away. He was a diehard Giants fan, so they're kind of like my B team in the NFC. So I watched them with a lot of interest. So Eric Flowers got significantly better after Ziggy Ansah beat him like a drum for 60 minutes in that game. So I don't know if the talent he was going against was mediocre. I just think the fact that he's so injury prone, we often forget just how good he really is, and I think that's normal. I mean, he missed how many games this year? 7, something like that. He missed a boatload of games, a boatload of playing time. We'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we often forget how good he really is, and so I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's really an indictment of the guys he was going against that he got 9 sacks in 3 games or whatever it was, but I think we just forget how good he is because he's always hurt.
Yeah, no, but that's fair. And obviously, we still don't know if he's 28, 29, or 30. We've done that running joke. But you look it over. I mean, there's guys in the NFL. Stephon Tuitt in Pittsburgh, he's only 24. But a guy like Jason Pierre-Paul, he's 29, and he's making $15.5 million a year on average. Olivier Vernon of the Giants, right around Ansah's age, he's 27. He's making 17 a year. Muhammad Wilkerson, who is 28, same thing with J.J. Watt, they're making a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money. And we've seen with Theo Riddick and with Darius Slay escalators in their contracts. That's what Bob Quinn likes to do. If he extends you for a while, that's fine, but you're not going to get max money right out of the gate. You're not going to get even good guaranteed money out of the gate. You're going to get a decent amount of it. He's not going to gyp you, but if you want your max money, you're going to have to earn it, right?
Yep.
So out of the two, if Ansah is not healthy, the way Bob Quinn structures contracts, it may be advantageous to get him, but also with his injury, concerns, maybe you do just reload in the draft because, again, this is one of the drafts that running back is stacked. Yep. I mean, it pretty much is every year. People just forget about it because we're in a pass-happy league. But there's really good running backs coming into the draft. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's the number 1 guy, but you still have guys, again, Darius Geis, really, really good. And when he and Leonard Fournette were at LSU, he was better than Fournette. You can look it up. You have guys that are going to be playing in the national championship on Monday, and Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has been amazing at Georgia. You have options. You have
Scarborough and Harris from Bama.
Exactly. I mean, again, you have your options, right? And it was something too that on Monday, Bob Quinn, just as a quick little note, said, "Yeah, I'm going to basically look for a running back in this draft." But I bring that up because it directly affects Ansah. Because you could go in the first round and still get a top-fledged defensive end. You can go with your 20th pick, which I always joke is the first place of the losers in the NFL because that's literally the pick right before you get into the playoff guys. But you can still get a quality pass rusher there. You can get a guy to replace a guy like Ansah. You don't have to pay him through the nose. Granted, a lot of pieces on defense, need to be upgraded. You still need to upgrade your linebacking core. I think Reeves-Maybin's okay. I don't think he's great, but we know how good Davis and Whitehead are. I mean, they're really good linebackers. Whitehead's kind of coming out of nowhere to still solidify himself to be a good weak side linebacker and strong side linebacker. He can play the edges pretty well. He can. But you still have some weaknesses on the defensive line. So I think that's what you're going to do in the first round. But in the second round, as you want, you can pick any running back you want. Because guys like Nick Chubb and Sony Michel will be available in the second round, and they're first-round talents in any other year. I mean, they really are. That's how stacked this draft is. You're not looking for, the rumors of, Kareem Hunt's this guy from Toledo. He's supposed to be really, really good. Well, no, you have surefire things. Like, Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara, they were the guys that you were starting to hear about through the draft process as they were getting there. They were guys in college that only diehard fans knew about. But you also have guys like John Kelly at Tennessee, announcing that he's going to be a running back available in the draft. He's really good. And he's a local kid, too. He went to Oak Park High School. So, again, it's something that I think that's why out of the two, back with Ebron, who had an amazing second half of the season. I mean, he was a guy who really helped the Lions move the football. I think out of the two, since he's already tendered for next year, you don't really have to worry about him. You let Ansah walk. You let someone else pay a bad contract because it's something that would be an SOL move, a same old Lions type move. You have a guy who has potential, but then you're going to overpay him to keep him. And I don't see Bob Quinn doing that. I really don't. I think he lets him walk, and he drafts his replacement in the first round. Am I crazy? What would you do?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. And I mean, I don't know. I would absolutely let him walk. I've said time and time again that I think the Ansah experience is just I'm over it. I'm tired of Ziggy Ansah is going to have 48 sacks this year, and he's going to be all pro and blah blah blah. And every year, same thing. He gets hurt. I'm just tired of it. And I understand injuries are part of the game. It's football. It's two cars crashing at high speed every play. I get it, but at the same time, I'm over the Ziggy Ansah experience. Ebron has really made a believer out of me. He made Stafford a guy who throws the tight end who historically doesn't. He doesn't look at his tight ends unless it's a last-ditch effort, and now he's doing that more and more and more, which is great because if I was an offensive coordinator, people get mad when I say this, but I would build my offense around running backs and tight ends and then just have decent wide receivers because take a look at New England, man. They don't have stud receivers. They've got Gronkowski and a bunch of guys, and that offense just moves. So, I mean, it's just that's kind of how I would build an offense. So I like the fact that Ebron's going to be back. And if he can build on what he did this year, next year, oh boy, look out because it's going to be fun. But yeah, I think you let Ziggy Ansah walk. And, this year there's not a lot of top flight pass rushers coming out, at least through my eye. I mean, there's a few. But I wouldn't even be upset if they went pass rush as an outside linebacker. There's a kid coming out of Oklahoma, and Ben, I apologize. His name is so bizarre and off the wall that I'm going to butcher it. It's something like Obazak. Oh, I don't know. It starts with an O. It's a really, really bizarre name. But I've been watching a lot of stuff on ESPN college football. And, of course, Oklahoma was one of the top teams this year, so I got to see a lot of that. And this kid can fly, man. He can come out and he can get to the ball carrier in the backfield. He can get in the quarterback's face like it is nobody's business. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come in round 2 as a defensive, as an outside linebacker, and see them go running back in round 1. I mean, in my opinion, you can't miss as long as you address the defensive line or running back in rounds 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody that's a Lions fan is going to be upset. I really don't.
Yeah, the guy that you're thinking of, his name is Ogbonnaya, and then his last name is, oh God, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Okoronkwo, it looks like.
Yes.
So there you go. That is my professional announcer name for him. And again, if I butchered that, that's completely fine. Try spelling it There's a lot of O's and vowels in that name. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, that's I don't know. It's something that Ansah was good. He was a pleasant surprise. He wasn't everyone's favorite, draft choice.
No.
5 years ago, and I remember it because we did a live draft show. It was our first live show here on Sports Radio Detroit, and you could tell everyone's like, "Oh, get Lane Johnson. He's good. We need help on the offensive line." It was the same things that Lions fans always ask for. Get an offensive lineman, do that. And it's like, guys, Ansah's not bad. He's not. And then they did. They drafted Ansah, and it worked out for 3 years, maybe 3.5 total. But yeah, it's just that's just the way I see it. I think out of the two, he's the ones that's easily expendable because this offense is not that far off. You need maybe another offensive lineman, another top flight offensive lineman, or maybe you still have growth. Who knows? Dahl didn't look all that bad. Granted, he wasn't playing against top talent all the time, but again, Dahl's never looked bad when he's been on the field. Travis Swanson, you don't know if he's going to be back or not. Maybe Glasgow moves over and Dahl becomes a guard. We don't know. There's a lot of still moving parts you have to be done before April's draft and even the combine the month beforehand. But it's just, again, it just seems like, and especially with the way that they're interviewing candidates, which we'll get to as our last topic in just a moment, this offense isn't that far off. Maybe you can plug and play a running back, like I said, in the second round. Maybe someone slips to the third round again, but I don't think the Lions are going to do that. I think in the first 2 rounds they're going to take a running back, and that's going to be
they've got to.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. But I think in the first round you help your defensive line because, again, your defensive line also couldn't generate quarterback pressure all the time. I mean, it was something that, looking through, we had a good September Heisman in Anthony Zidell. The first 4 games he was pacing the league in sacks. He wasn't bad. And then teams were like, hey, we're going to double team this guy because that's unfair to everyone else. And he kind of disappeared the rest of the year. And it's something that's what's lacking in this defense. You have good coverage guys. The Lions finally have good coverage guys. The defense has actually been inverse of what's normally been the Lions' strength. Normally, the old Lions have been good with the defensive line and decent linebackers. Now you have good to decent linebackers and a good secondary. And you have a bad defensive line, almost average. So you're not that far there, but I think that's where you need the most help. But speaking of September Heismans and Anthony Zidell, we had 2 topics left. Marty, just really quick, on both sides of the ball, who gets your MVP out of curiosity? Because at least for me on defense, I think it's obvious that Darius Slay would be an easy pick, and he's mine because he just gets better every year. He just does. But on offense, you really kind of have to, pick and guess and see who could be a good MVP. I don't think it's Stafford. I think Stafford, made some mistakes he shouldn't have made, and I would say Marvin Jones actually could be an MVP on offense. You could say a dark horse would be Ebron as well. Those are my 2 guys. Who are your MVPs for the Lions this year?
Stafford and Diggs.
Interesting. Okay.
I got to go
defend
with
your
Stafford.
case, sir.
I got to go with Stafford because, to quote a crying Terrell Owens, that's my quarterback. I got to go. I mean, yeah, he made mistakes. He absolutely did. Tom Brady's made mistakes. I mean, that's part of the game. But we've never lost a game because of Matt Stafford. We've won a boatload of games because of Matt Stafford, but we've never lost one because of him, at least in my opinion. And as far as Quandre Diggs, man, as soon as he got solidified and roll right around week 10 – 11, whatever it was, he started seeing that field more, and that defense started firing on all cylinders again like they were in the first couple games. I think Quandre Diggs was absolutely outstanding, and that's not a slight against Slay or Glover Quinn or anybody like that, but I think that defense, once you put Quandre Diggs out there every play, they got so much better on that back end because it looked like quarterbacks started shying away from him a little bit, whereas with Glover Quinn out there, they were going to still test the waters. With Quandre Diggs out there, he started having quarterbacks second-guessing themselves which started helping, guys like Ansah and so on get to the quarterbacks. So I got to go Stafford and Diggs. Diggs, not the most obvious choice. I understand people are probably listening to this. They'll probably go, well, really? Like, he didn't become a legit starter until week 10 or whatever it was. But, I mean, that to me, that he was a spark plug in that defense.
Interesting. Okay, no, I mean, you're right. Once he was moved into safety, he stopped the bleeding pretty darn well. But that's fine. That's why we have you on the show. It's not to agree with me. That we all know that, because I think if you listen back through an entire season's worth, now 2 seasons worth, we don't agree all that much, to be honest. No. But one final topic, obviously, just catching you up. If you're unsure of who the Lions have interviewed and who's on the list and everything like that, the list is still growing. But one list in particular that Ian Rappaport had was, I think, really interesting, because last year, Jason La Canfora said that our friend Josh McDaniels in New England had 4 teams on his list. The Lions was one of the 4 teams. The Rams were on it, and I think the Colts were on it, and then one other team. Basically, though, there was only 2 teams left on that list. This year, though, again, Ian Rappaport released this. Patriots assistant interview plans. The Giants will get to interview Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels on Friday. The Colts will talk with McDaniels. They talked with him on Wednesday. The Bears will get McDaniels on Friday. The Cardinals will interview Patricia and Patriots linebacking coach Brian Flores on Saturday. And the Lions will get only Matt Patricia. Josh McDaniels is not mentioned on that list by Ian Rappaport. Now, I don't know what you want to read into that, but just looking at it, it was something that, one, confirms what everyone's been saying. Matt Patricia is, the go-to guy. He's the one everyone wants. But maybe the Lions are waiting, but I don't think so, because that's unlikely, because he may get hired out before that happens. Or they're just really just playing the long con, and they will interview him after they interview Patricia, just at a different time. It sounded like you wanted to say something, Marty. What do you want to add?
Yeah, you said Matt Patricia was kind of the go-to guy. For me, I know people are going to roll their eyes again. I'm not a big Matt Patricia believer.
I'm kidding.
I've come around on him because I've done a little bit of research, and I don't remember all the numbers, but his defense, they weren't as bad as I had initially thought. They just gave up chunk plays more often than I was comfortable with. But hey, that's what we've been doing in Detroit for years, so whatever. But the guy that really truly interests me is Mike Vrabel, and here's why. He's got guys like that. He finally got something out of Jadeveon Clowney.
That's true.
If he can get Brian Cushing off the steroids and onto the field, we know what that guy can do. J.J. Watt has tons of natural ability, but he got coached up quite a bit by Mike Vrabel. He did a lot with some of those guys down, and of course there's other guys down there too. But he's done a lot with those guys in Houston, and I would really. Plus, he's a players coach. Like, he knows how to get to these guys. Like, he knows how to wake these guys up and say, "Hey, this is unacceptable. Let's do something about it." So I think the guy that I really want is Vrabel. But that's just me.
And Mike Vrabel did interview for the job. I think he interviewed on Wednesday or Tuesday. Terrell Austin and Jim Bob Cooter both interviewed for the Lions job, and Bob Quinn even said, "Hey, I don't know if the candidate's going to be in-house or not. I'm just interviewing guys." Now, I think he's doing a favor to Jim Bob Cooter, only because we know Jim Bob Cooter wants to be a head coach. He's one of the guys that gets rumored to be a head coach, and I think he's doing him a favor to just go through the interview process, see what it's like, see what the questions are like, and kind of coaching him through it. Because some teams maybe will interview Jim Bob Cooter for a head coaching job, and Terrell Austin's already been interviewed by other teams, and that was one that was a little curious. I don't know if it was just professional courtesy, because granted this year the defense disappeared in games, in two key games. We all know that. Baltimore and Cincinnati. I don't need to tell you the stats because we've already said it. But also this team was one of the top scoring defenses in the league and one of the best in turnovers in the league. And that was a point of emphasis from last year. So, again, I think it's a sign of respect for Terrell Austin to get that interview. One that was really interesting, though, Winston Moss was interviewed by the Lions on Thursday as well. And if he doesn't get a job, he might be one of the guys that's out in Green Bay. Green Bay has already got rid of their coordinator, Dom Capers, already. They got rid of inside linebackers coach Scott McCurley and defensive line coach Mike Travoic. All of them were fired. Alex Van Pelt, the quarterback's coach, and offensive coordinator Edgar Bennett were gone as well. So there's basically a brand new house cleaning in Green Bay. So maybe, again, that's professional courtesy because it's something that was written by Kyle Meineke, who does a great job covering the Lions. He makes a good point that if he maybe doesn't get this job because he hasn't been a coordinator, he's only been a positions coach, and if he's not hired by the Lions, he might be fired by the Packers. He might be one of the guys on the way out. Outside of that, you have an interesting name in Pat Shurmur, who he's the Vikings offensive coordinator, has made that team interesting, and I don't know how he's getting Case Keenum to play the way he is. Still, Keenum, and I've said this for weeks, is avoiding the water that's trying to find its level, and he's playing very, very well. And Pat Shurmur is, partly responsible for that. Also, Adam Thielen plays well. Stephon Diggs is really good. You had a good running back in Delvin Cook. So you have some good pieces there. He'll be interesting. Like I said, Matt Patricia is supposed to be interviewed over the weekend, but with the snowstorm, that might get delayed. And Panthers defensive coordinator and linebacking coach Steve Wilks is expected to interview after Carolina's game on Sunday. Now, the thing that's interesting, and I don't mean to poke fun, but I will, is 3 of those names, if you think Jim Caldwell was fired based on race, 3 of those names are African American. It's not Bob Quinn just interviewing one of them for the Rooney Rule. No, he's showing race is not an issue. He's actually Steve Wilks, African American. Moss, African American. Terrell Austin, African American. So maybe we can finally put that weird storyline to bed. I don't know, but if I were a guy covering the Lions, I would. But it's just something that's weird that Josh McDaniels is not on this list because if it was me, and we know my preferences, the guy I want's not on that list. The guy I want's David Shaw. Maybe he gets interviewed in a second round or third round of interviews. Who knows? But he's not on that list. Next guy I would go after, Pat Shurmur, because he has head coaching experience. Granted it was in Cleveland, but we know how bad the organization in Cleveland is. Maybe it's not a true reflection of what he's done. Josh McDaniels is the other guy on that list because, again, he had an opportunity to learn in Denver, got the Broncos into the playoffs, and won a game against the Steelers with a bad quarterback in Tim Tebow. That was the only
two bad quarterbacks, because don't forget, until Tebow took over, it was, I believe, Kyle Orton.
Yeah, well, exactly. But that's my point.
Maybe that's why he's not an interview. Maybe that's why he's not on the interview list, because Quinn's confident with the offense that's there.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because, one, I don't think Jim Bob Cooter, because everyone's saying, oh, go defensive because you can keep Jim Bob Cooter. This is the same fan base that just rails on Jim Bob Cooter for a lack of a running game. Like, literally, They talk out of both sides of their mouth there. So what I would do, if Ben Salagi was running your Detroit Lions, I'm pushing all in with the offense. I know it's my strength. I know that's where my bread's buttered in this league and in this division. The Packers did it for a while, and then their defense got really good, and then their offense kind of got stagnant a little bit. But that's what the Packers did. They went all in on their offense. Minnesota did the defense thing first and then started to bolster their offense, and now their offense and defense are almost at the same level. Obviously, that's why they've only lost 3 games this year. But that's if I'm running the team, I say go in on the offense. Let's see what you got. Because if Jim Bob Cooter can't scheme enough to come up with a running game, I don't care if I hire a guy like Matt Patricia or Mike Vrabel or Terrell Austin. I don't want Jim Bob Cooter here. I don't want to give him a second shot. I would be getting a new offensive coordinator. Like I said, 2 weeks ago now. I want new coaches. I don't want anyone from the previous regime in here. And I think anyone who does needs to reevaluate it. I'm not going to call you dumb because you're passionate about it. That's fine. And yes, Jim Bob Cooter has a good relationship with Matthew Stafford. But come on. Let's be realistic here a little bit. Maybe go with your strength. Maybe challenge Matt Stafford to get better. I don't know. It's just I'm spitballing here, but those are the guys I would look at. I have the list that's already been reported. I would give Pat Shurmur a good hard look, in all honesty. One guy I would also give a look is Frank Reich. Roger Castillo, Marty, when we gave you a little bit of break around Christmas, that was his name, and that was an intriguing name because he's helped Carson Wentz get that much better out in Philadelphia. So Frank Reich could be a good little interesting pick, but I think we're a long ways off. I think we still have another 2, maybe 3 weeks until the Lions actually hire somebody. Again, if you're asking me, I want David Shaw here. I think David Shaw would be exceptional, and he's a guy who would bring in a really good staff. But that's just me. Anything you want to rebuke on that or tell me I'm an idiot about? Because that'll be fine.
Not at all.
Ben, you're an idiot. No, I'm kidding. You want Pat Shurmur here? You're stupid. No, but in all seriousness, though, obviously we'll keep you up to date with what's going on. We'll give thoughts on what's going on. But like I said, I don't want anyone from the previous regime back because I think if you do that, you're taking a half step backwards either way.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. You can't keep the old regime here. Anybody, if you're going to fire the head coach, you can't just say, "Oh, well, everybody else is gone. Well, we're going to keep JBC." No, sorry. If you're firing Caldwell, everybody's got to go. Clean house.
Right. Exactly. I mean that's just the way I think. Granted, I'm not running a NFL team. I'm not even.
Let me ask you this because I missed this, and I don't. We talked about Ron Prince getting the axe.
Yes.
And I might have missed it. Did the running backs coach get fired yet?
No.
Well, how the hell does that work? What? Hey, buddy, your crew didn't perform at all this year, but you can keep your job for a little while longer. We're going to fire this guy. Like, what is okay. Sorry. Okay, I was just curious.
Well, to be fair, it's something that if you don't have a hole to run through, you can't really blame David Walker, who coaches the running backs. So,
well, that's a valid point, but when you don't have running backs outside of apparently Tion Green that can actually find holes in the line to run through, I mean, that's you can see it with Abdullah and you can see it with Riddick. That's just not a strength they have. I mean, even in college, Riddick didn't really run between the tackles. He was more of a receiver than a running back.
Oh, his later years in college at Notre Dame, he was a wide receiver. That's why he's so good at catching the ball.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, I mean, it's just – I think it also plays into drafting as well. If you draft guys that can't run in between the tackles in college, they're not going to be able to do it in the NFL because it's not something they're, for lack of a better term, accustomed to doing. It's just not a skill that they have.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And maybe David Walker is a guy that is next on the list. Who knows? He very well could be, but we'll find out. Like I said, this movie's just getting started, and I have the popcorn. I am excited because, like I said, I wanted this last year. So I'm ready to see where the Lions go. Like I said, if they think they can make the right hire to go from a so-so level to a championship level, yeah, you piqued my interest. But that's all the time we have for you, obviously, here today on Lions SRD. If you feel like stopping by for any of our other podcasts, like I said, Out of Bounds, Saturday Tailgate with Jeremy Stover. He's also on Mitten Sports Talk with Eric Lehman. The SRD Road Show, Spinning the Wheels, Pucking Around, Laugh Tracks, like I mentioned before at the start of the show. Any one of our shows, the set piece even, if soccer's your thing. We have a lot for you to choose from. The only thing that we ask, whether you find us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever podcasts are, we just ask that you give a good review so that we can beat the algorithm and help people find podcasts that you obviously love. But outside of that, like I said, that's all the time we have for you. For Marty Stouffer, I'm Ben Salagi. We say goodnight.